Welcome to Intangible IQ Hoops with Kyle. Today we're going to break down the physiological and psychological impact of basketball on a basketball player. This will help us understand the connectivity to the use of intangibles and their ability to perform these intangibles on a court to best be effective and impactful for their team. Now, before I go any further, hit like, subscribe if you like what you're hearing. I promise I won't be droning on and giving you a long lecture, but I do want to tap into some deep aspects of basketball and what that impact shows up on and how that impact also shows up on the floor. Thanks for watching if you are watching, and for those who are going to watch eventually, I'm looking forward to your responses, comments, and feedback. All right, so we're going to talk about the psychology of basketball first. According to NCBI, there are some aspects of the psychological things in basketball that cause quite a bit of pressure. This article is cited from Frontiers in Psychology, and the name of the article is Mental Fatigue and Basketball Performance, a Systematic Review. And there are a list of doctors: Cal, Gyok, Roslin, Sun, Lamb, and Quion. They're all listed. I'll have them cited for you if you want to find the article I'm referencing. But basically, this talks about the physical fatigue as a psychobiological state that impairs sports-related performances. Now, you're probably wondering, what does psychology have to do with the intangibles in basketball? Well, if a player is going to give their best performance, it's needed that they are able to manage their mental fatigue. Now, of course, it seems like basketball is just a sport, but there's a lot of psychological and mental aspects to pay attention to within a basketball game. There's also something that players do that a lot of behavioral analysts do to some degree, not maybe at the furthest extreme, but it's called pattern recognition. Pattern recognition is the ability to see something happen and break down its pattern and have the ability to recognize it and then make a response to it and have a reactivity to it in a timely and an efficient manner. Now, what I meant by pattern recognition is if a player sees a series of plays that are similar over and over again, a player's ability to percept that and then impact it, whether defensively or offensively, is a part of intangibles. It's able to pay attention to detail and see what's going on the court. Now, to continue from the article, basically it states that it can be prolonged, demanding cognitive activity, which has been implicated in many aspects of daily life. This condition causes an acute feeling of tiredness and a decreased cognitive ability. Now, interestingly enough, you play 48 minutes, and there are timeouts in order to give teams a tactical ability to take a break and also to be able to regroup if a team has made a run or if they're trying to continue to make the run that they're on. Good coaches, great coaches, all notice these things and make different adjustments needed necessary. Now, players are not the only ones who are impacted by mental, psychological fatigue. Coaches are as well. Their ability to also perceive what's going wrong on the court for their team or going right and being able to see if it's going to be counteracted soon is a large part of stress on the body, stress on the mind. So for anybody who says it's just a game, there are so many things happening on the court. There are players communicating, which is a part of intangibles, back screens, pin downs, cuts, open players, whether somebody stepped out of bounds. All of those things are high IQ things to pay attention to. Not to mention they're taking account of their own fatigue. They're taking account of their own teammates' fatigue if they're the leader on their team, and any good teammate would be paying attention to that. And also their ability to do all of this and be coachable and remain in a focused state for an extended period of time, over 48-minute period, requires a lot to deal with as a player on the floor. Now, there are some aspects in this article that I'm not going to necessarily break down because it kind of goes away and it gets into a rabbit hole of the psychology much deeper than we need to go to on here. But what I will say is there are some physiological aspects that also have an impact on players. Now, There's another article on NCBI, which is the National Library of Medicine or National Center for Biotechnology Information. This came from the Journal of Human Kinetics, but you can find it on NCBI, the Physiology of Basketball. Pardon me. They give an abstract. The game of basketball is characterized by short, intense bouts of activity at a medium to high frequency. Basketball entails specific types of movements, physiological requirements, and energy sources. The duration of the physiological responses, including involving ATP, CP, and glycolysis responses, are this type of activity lasts from 5 to 6 seconds per sprint, and a contribution of the aerobic system is less than 10%. Recovery periods in basketball, as a rule, are not long enough to fill up the gap for such high intensity activities. It is hard to achieve the same level of performance consistently over time in repeated sprints, end quote. Now, I've said all of that to say there is an aspect and impact physiologically and psychologically for a player to continue to be at a high performance level and impact their team in a way that is positive. Now, for a lot of cases, what ends up happening is players whose conditioning, players whose endurance isn't at the highest level can cause lapses on offense and defense. And it causes challenges for their team. And obviously there's a lot of pressure involved, not just from their coaches, not from the teammates, but also their fans. Literally, players hear what's being said about them on the court, whether they're at home or they're away. And that has an impairment on their impact on the court. So there is a psychological and physiological impact on players on the court. Now, this is just part one of many, I want to say about 7 videos on the physiological and psychological impacts of players in basketball, their ability on the court to present and give out results on the floor, whether they're able to recognize offense and defensively, and being able to positively impact their team. This video, I hope, wasn't too long, and I hope I didn't drone on too long. But I'm going to list the sources of where I've gotten my information from, and I'll also talk about the fact of how it impacts intangibles. Now, there are some intriguing things to state when it comes to intangibles. Let's break it down one more time for those who probably haven't heard. Coachability, communication, accountability, attitude, effort, competitiveness, commitment, grit, and attention to detail. Every last one of these things require a player to have their top game and play their role well. And they all have a psychological and physiological impact on a player's ability to give results. At any rate, do things mindfully, see the game intangibly. Hit like and subscribe if you like what you heard. This is just part one of 7 videos. I'm really excited to share more of what I've learned and more of what I understand. And that way we can come to an understanding about the intangibles of basketball and their connective impact on both mind, body, and their efforts. Peace.